On October 2nd, 1999, around 11:30 a.m., two men came across a very young boy while fishing at a campsite on the Big South Trail, part of the Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forest in Colorado. Encountering a lone child in the middle of nowhere was cause for concern. The two fishermen noticed a group of hikers about 80 to 90 feet ahead and assumed the child was part of that group. After a brief conversation, the child ran off toward the hikers. That child was 3-year-old Jared Atadero, and this was the last time anyone would ever see him again. To understand how a 3-year-old ended up in that situation, we must examine the life of his father, Alan Atadero. Alan was a divorced single father raising his two children, 3-year-old Jared and 6-year-old Jocelyn. Earlier that year, Alan had become deeply involved with a local religious organization known as the Christian Singles Network Group. By October, he was hosting 11 members of this group, along with his two children, at a resort he co-owned with his brother. On the day of the incident, the children wanted to go on a trip to see a fish hatchery with the group. Alan was reluctant at first, but ultimately agreed when members assured him they would only visit the hatchery and return immediately. However, for reasons that remain unclear, the planned visit turned into a 15-mile hike along the Big South Trail, starting around 10 a.m. Taking two young children on a lengthy hike without their father's permission was the first mistake. The second, and arguably the worst mistake, was that no one took explicit responsibility for the children. Everyone assumed someone else was watching Jared and Jocelyn, but in reality, no one was. To make matters worse, the hikers split into two groups, those walking faster and those lagging behind, making it nearly impossible to keep track of the children. About an hour and a half into the hike, Jared interacted with two fishermen before running off toward a group of hikers. It's unclear whether he was between the two hiking groups or had already passed them entirely. The hikers seen by the fishermen might not have even been part of the same group. Sadly, this was the last time Jared was seen. It wasn't until 12:15 p.m. that the Christian group realized they hadn't seen Jared for over an hour. Panic set in, and some members rushed back to the resort to inform Alan. He immediately drove to the trail, distraught, repeating, "They lost my baby, they lost my baby." Meanwhile, the resort manager filed a missing person report and alerted the park rangers. The rangers, experienced in finding missing hikers, began searching immediately. The sheriff at the time stated, "I thought we would find him. Yes, it was a child, but I believed we could locate him within a few hours. It might take some time, but we would find him before midnight." However, after almost a full day of searching, Jared remained missing, and hopes of finding him alive began to fade. Things worsened when a helicopter searching for Jared stalled 100 feet in the air and crashed, injuring all its passengers. By October 7th, over 200 professional searchers, a dozen dog teams, professional trackers, a dive team, and a plane were involved in the search. Tragically, after 5 grueling days with no leads, the search for Jared came to a heartbreaking halt. On October 8th, the case became a massive media story and even led to the Colorado governor signing the Amber Alert plan into law. Jared's case, however, remained cold until June 4th, 2003, when two hikers, Gary Watts and Rob Osborne, found tattered clothes and a sneaker about 500 feet above Jared's last known location. Recognizing the connection, they contacted the authorities. A more thorough search of the area followed, and 10 days later, searchers made a grim discovery: a femur and part of a human skull. DNA tests confirmed the remains were Jared's, as were the clothes found nearby. After nearly 4 years, Jared's family finally had some closure. However, the question remains: what really happened to Jared? The most straightforward explanation is that he wandered off, got lost, and succumbed to hypothermia. However, the spot where his remains were found is nearly inaccessible. Extremely. steep and rocky terrain that would challenge even an adult. The most plausible theory is that he was attacked by a cougar, which are native to the area. While cougars rarely attack humans, a small child could easily become a target. Some hikers in the group reported hearing a distant scream, including Jared's sister, Jocelyn. However, there are inconsistencies in the cougar theory. Researchers found no blood or cougar hair on Jared's clothes. Additionally, his pants were found inside out, and his sneakers were in excellent condition despite 4 winters in the Colorado mountains. These details point to a more disturbing theory. Jared may have been abducted and later killed by another person. The kidnapper could have scattered his remains years after the incident. Unfortunately, even with all the evidence, Jared's case remains a mystery. Pet Gabara Farahàn. March 21st, 2010. The Gabara family returned from a trip to their home in Mexico. That evening, the parents tucked their 2 daughters into bed, unaware it would be the last time they saw one of them alive. The following morning, the family's nanny, Erica, entered 4-year-old Pet Gabara Farah's room to wake her, only to find the bed empty. After searching the room, Erica alerted Pet's mother, Lizette Farah, who immediately contacted the authorities. Pet had severe physical disabilities and couldn't have gone anywhere on her own. Investigators found no evidence of a break-in or kidnapping. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. The Attorney General's office created posters explaining Pet's situation and plastered them across the region. Lizette's sister, Arlette, also posted pictures on social media, which went viral, turning Pet's disappearance into a national headline. Lizette even released a televised message to potential abductors, pleading for Pet's return and promising not to press charges. Sadly, none of these efforts yielded results. 9 days later, on March 31st, Pet's lifeless body was discovered in her own room, stuck between the mattress and the foot of the bed. On the surface, this should have closed the case. However, the inconsistencies were too significant to ignore. How could no one have noticed the body just feet from where she was supposed to be sleeping? The house had been searched by professionals and highly trained dogs. Additionally, the room had many visitors in the days after Pet's disappearance, including guests who slept in the same bed. Lizette even gave an interview sitting on the bed where Pet's body was later found. The only logical explanation is that Pet's body wasn't under the mattress during the initial searches, but was placed there later, possibly by one or both of her parents. According to the official coroner's report, Pet moved onto the bed on her own, fell headfirst into the gap, and suffocated. However, evidence contradicts this. For instance, Lizette had shown the same trousers Pet was found wearing during an interview days earlier. Additionally, investigators found multiple bloodstains hidden in the sheets, some as large as a soccer ball. Despite this, the official report ruled out physical abuse and made no mention of the bloodstains. The case caused outrage in Mexico, leading to the resignation of Alberto Baz, the Attorney General of the state of Mexico. While the truth may never be known, the evidence suggests a cover-up by the authorities. Lucy Meadows. July 25th, 1996. Jan Meadows visited the Rivergate Mall in Goodlettsville, Tennessee, to sell crafts at a flea market. After parking her car, she opened the back door to let her 3-year-old daughter, Lucy, out. Jan then went to the passenger side to retrieve some crafts, but when she returned, Lucy was gone. She immediately contacted mall security, who conducted a thorough search, but Lucy was nowhere to be found. Over the following weeks, police interviewed over 100 witnesses, reviewed surveillance footage, and followed up on tips. However, they found no clues. Yin, a Korean immigrant who had separated from her husband Tom, was living with another woman, Han Suk-dae, also known as Tammy. In her original statement, Yan claimed she had only looked away for a few seconds, but weeks later, she changed her story, saying she might have been busy for 10 to 15 minutes. This discrepancy raised suspicions. Jan failed 2 polygraph tests and became reluctant to cooperate with investigators. A neighbor reported seeing Lucy wandering outside early one morning, crying and not dressed for the weather. Tammy's statements also didn't align with Jan's, further complicating the case. Despite extensive searches, no evidence was found, and the case went cold for 18 years. In November 2004, a witness came forward, claiming he saw Lucy lying on the floor at home, wrapped in a blanket, a day before her disappearance. While the police never released the witness's name, it is believed to be Daniel, Tammy's son, who would have been 11 at the time. If his testimony is true, Lucy was likely already dead before her alleged disappearance, and Jan fabricated the abduction story to cover up the truth. Sabrina Eisenberg. On November 22, 1997, Florida couple Steve and Marlene Eisenberg recorded a video of their nearly 5-month-old daughter, Sabrina. The next day, they watched a Disney movie with their 3 children and tucked them into bed. Marlene checked on Sabrina around midnight, but when she woke up the next morning, she found the garage door open and Sabrina missing from her crib. The police launched the largest manhunt in Florida history at the time. Investigators found a mysterious footprint and unidentified fingerprints near Sabrina's crib, but no other leads. Suspicion soon turned to Steve and Marlene. While Steve passed a polygraph test, Marlene's results were inconclusive due to stress. The police installed hidden listening devices in their home, capturing over 2,600 conversations. They claimed to have evidence of the couple admitting to Sabrina's murder, but the judge dismissed the case, citing unclear audio. Steve and Marlene won a countersuit, and the government paid their attorney fees. Despite the police's focus on the couple, the real perpetrator remains at large. Sabrina's case remains unsolved, and her parents continue to hope for answers.